Hello. I think this is going now. Good evening, everyone. Happy Halloween for those who celebrate. Still setting up small things while my child is crying in the background, such as it is. I'm quite curious as to how... I have not done setting up. I haven't even made my tea. How loud the stream is going to be, because I hope you're hearing me alright, because I'm trying the new microphone and I think we've gotten rid of the echo and I think the levels are alright. So let's see. Might have to mute it a bit while we pour some tea. There we go, that should be the worst of the noise, apart from young madam here. Would you like to say hello to the audience? Oh. No? Only if I bring a snack, you say? Hi. Hey, sweetie. Here? This way. Yeah? Can you do up here? Yeah. Ah, good girl. Then off we go. I didn't have any more snacks, but you're free to lie in your basket. Although it seems our cat camera is being a little wonky. I thought I fixed the internet and it seems to be jumping out anyway. Yeah, your basket. You have to cuddle the microphone, madam. Not quite sure that is the intended effect for our... Oh, this is fire. This is scary. You thought this was very scary once. I thought I would light the candle to keep my tea warm. But I fear for your fur at the moment. Yeah, I hope people are doing alright. Hello, Naosan. Hello, welcome to this 31st of October spooky, not so spooky, because we just like to hang out. Unfortunately, I don't really have a Halloween project to have fun with, because I just finished a project and now I am back to... I've actually been really enjoying in the evenings working on Ye Old. As You Like It Shawl, I should be starting on Yule and Christmas gifts, because that is decidedly the season, and yet I have been having a lot of fun finishing or working on this one. You're in a snack mood, aren't you? Hi. It's not often we are graced with your presence rather than your sister. But yes, welcome. I think it's going to be a quiet stream. We shall see how true that will be. Spouse was going to give out some candy, but they are off on an adventure, so they did do me the favor of turning off all the lights while we are chatting, so we shall see if the kids actually respect that. Halloween is not such a big thing in Norway yet, but it is growing, especially amongst the children, and I would too if I was a child in their stead, because there's always a good excuse for some candy, though when I was a child, caroling was a lot more prevalent than running around in costumes, which also seems like a lot of good fun. But yeah, we shall see if they actually respect the lights out or if they actually ring the bell anyway. I've met many children who are like, yeah, but we wanted to check just in case. Just in case you were here anyway. Hello, not Jello? Well, Jello is good. So why not both? Hello, Catherine. Thanks for doing this for a while. You're welcome. I thought it would be nice to have a little Halloween day hangout. I mean, not everyone have big plans and places to go to, so I thought why not hang out as usual all the same, because not everyone has places to be, and sometimes we just want to hang out in our own home, don't we? Just chilling out. I have a sneaky suspicion it is not quite correct. Pattern, what are we doing? And since Halloween is not such a big event in Norway, it doesn't bother me at all to hang out with all you lovely people and have a good time together. I'm going to do it like so. Because that is one thing that they always talk about when you get elderly relatives who are alone, that it isn't the everyday that is difficult, it's the big events, the occasions, and this is pretty big. This is pretty a big occasion in the US as far as I understand. But we are just... I was briefly entertaining the idea of dressing up, but I don't really have any costumes. Is my voice quieter today? It might be. I'm trying out a new microphone. Let's see. I can turn the voice up. Let's see. Microphone. If I put it on 15 decibels, is that better? I can't really... The microphone arm doesn't get any closer to me, which is a bit unfortunate. But I've tried to pull the table towards me a little bit, but that gives you a view of my screens hiding out in the background. We can do it even higher, I think. Well, maybe? Now let's start here and see. It's a very early morning and early afternoon, yeah. It is. The time zone shenanigans are at it again. Oh, that is good. Very easy to hear now. That is very good. I can still turn it up a little bit, but we'll see. Howdy, Haley. Good morning. Merry time of day. It is the silliness of daylight savings time is upon us, and as such, it is not the easiest to keep track of when everyone is. We have a group of some other YouTubers that I'm a part of where we try to discuss, YouTube issues, editing, mental health, good stuff. And every year, this is a thing. We've been doing the group for a little over a year now, and this is an issue every single time. The when is actually the daylight savings time, because Europe changes daylight savings time 1 week before the US for reasons unfathomable to us, but the thing, and every time it's a time. Let's see where my hexagons. There we are. Right. Does Norway change clocks for daylight saving? Here in the States, Arizona doesn't. Yeah, I've heard about that. Yes, Norway changes clocks. And most of Europe, as far as I know as well, does, but we do it a week before the US, so that creates a great discrepancy where, you know, when you're used to one time difference between the US and Europe, suddenly you have to add or subtract an hour, which is annoying. It is not the best when you're collaborating across the Atlantic and suddenly you have to change everything up for an hour for a whole week until the US, except for Arizona, also changes clocks, and then you're eventually back to normal again. And the discrepancy is whatever it used to be, which Diwali and Samhain, blessings to you all. Oh, is it Diwali as well? Happy Diwali! It's a very nice. We talked about that last time, didn't we? That there were a lot of holidays overlapping on top of each other, which was not usual. Would really like to get rid of daylight savings? Same. It just creates a big mess. I'm not a big fan. I have to say, it creates confusion and it's hard for all sorts of people, and yeah. Statistically, a larger amount of cardiac events and stroke happens on the day after and a couple of days after changing clocks. Yeah, it's... yeah. The excuse that we get more daylight is like, no, it doesn't really... does not really work like that, but yeah, we can all agree, at least I am on team, get rid of daylight savings because it just messes with... especially now that we have the science to back up that, you know, it actually doesn't do good for people's mental health, but people seem to want to... I don't know, a lot of people, like, there have been public votes and stuff that generally the population doesn't want to keep it, and yet here it is, it's still here. Let's see, I was trying to do a think. Quintana Roo state no longer changed the clocks. We just have to remember when all other countries do. I know, that's the problem, isn't it? Just like now, when suddenly instead of I can't, it's so like New York side, so the side closest to Europe is 6 hours away from Norway usually, and now it's 7. Just for 1 week though, instead of all the time, and it's so... it gets so confusing for anyone who is collaborating across the lines, and then someone has to realize it first that, oh, you're right, this is that time of year again when we have to be aware of clocks and how they behave. Why are you not working? Alright, so then we are correct. I'm getting just as confused reading patterns, but if you want more daylight, get up a day earlier, except in winter. An hour? Yeah, it's to accommodate for our capitalist working hours. Everyone should just work 8 hours every day, isn't it? Instead of accommodating to changing seasons and changing energy levels and all of the things. Going to start waking up a day earlier? That does sound very productive, yeah. Can recommend. But yeah, I'm definitely on team. Daylight savings time makes things difficult, especially for, um, cats, pets. If you feed them at a specific time of day, do not understand daylight savings. Neither do livestock. Neither do people with um, like very developmental disorders, and then suddenly all their assistants are coming at different times, and it's very difficult. So it's like such a strange, such a strange thing to do. But the thought was good at the time, but it was kind of the same idea. Like, no, we can't possibly have an impact on the environment, and no, changing how we perceive time couldn't possibly have an impact on our health or psyche, and now we know better, so could we not just change it? There was a documentary about this pair of siblings in Norway, like a really old pair of siblings who were running their family farm way off in the middle of nowhere, and they only did summertime. They did not change their clocks for winter, they only followed summertime, and I'm like, good on you for just standing your ground and just being like, no, we're not going to deal with that at all. Yeah, I have to adjust my alarms for my dog's walk. Yeah, exactly, because they follow a different rhythm and they don't change just because you say the clock is suddenly a different hour. But anyway, how everyone doing all over the... Good for them? Yeah, exactly. They were like, the cows don't know any different, so why should we? Which I thought was cute. But yeah, how are everyone doing this lovely 31st of October, last day of October before we get into November? I feel like November get a bad rep, to be honest with you. Everyone's like, oh, at least in Europe where Thanksgiving is not a thing, it's like, oh, it's not cozy autumn, it's not Yule yet, it's just dark and rainy and depressing, the snow hasn't arrived yet. And I'm like, but isn't it a little bit nice to have a break month of sorts where you're just kind of chilling? Because if you went directly from really hectic, if they were doing Halloween and Halloween decor, like my spouse has been enjoying doing Halloween decor, and then you're supposed to leap straight into Yule decor and winter decor, like I appreciate a good break month, a good breathing month. Although I know for us US friends that is not the case, because you have Thanksgiving in the middle of that as well, so you don't really get a break. It's like full on all autumn throughout the end of the year. Just completely things going on all the time. Knitting some fingerless gloves and waiting for focaccia to rise. That sounds really nice, like a really good morning. It's been a while since I baked bread. It's so satisfying to watch something just rise, kind of on its own, really. Just letting the bacteria and yeast do their own thing is super cool. There are so many cool things like fermentation, where you just let the microbiome do the work for you, and I'm a fan of that. I think that is really awesome that we've figured out ways to make good food by just letting time work for us. I'm a big fan of that. I'll always get, like, if we are, I'll look for the 40% off cuts that are going out of date that day, and they're usually, the cheaper cuts, the bony with a lot of sinew and skin, but they're really good if you boil them for a long time. So I am a fan of letting time work for you. Autumn and winter are pretty packed hard on the wallets. I believe that. I definitely believe that. At least here we get a break in between to breathe. Finishing up my Halloween costume because I decided to add pockets last minute. Pockets are always worthy of adding, so I support this very much. Absolutely recommend. There was years ago when I was tired of some of my dresses that I had been given by spouse. None of them had pockets, so I just took a day and just added pockets to all of them. Even the one that had a zipper in the side seam, I just finangled with the zipper and added pockets to that one too. And they are so much better now because now I can carry stuff around with me. Pockets are always worth it. Yes, more chorusing fan of pockets. We love a good pocket. Oh, I forgot to light the candle. I forgot to light my tea candle, but where did I put my matches? So I open this drawer. One of the cats here. Doesn't sound like it. So I thought we could. Ooh, stay. I thought we could make it a little bit cozy today. Seeing as it is a day of celebration in many ways. Pockets for all, yes, pockets for all, in everything, everywhere. Pockets are just the best. Although I'm also a fan of the tie-on pockets, because if your clothes don't have pockets, you can just grab a tie-on pocket and then you have a pocket again after all. So I like having, because I've been inheriting a fair amount of clothes the last couple of years, so I have just this weird accumulation of random clothing that I would not necessarily choose myself if I had to go buy clothes and didn't have the time to make my own. And some of those don't have pockets, and they're in such stretchy, weird fabrics that I don't think it's clever to try to add some either, but wearing them with some tie-on pockets works perfectly fine for puttering about the house. If anyone is wondering about ye old CatCam, CatCam is not activated right now. We have been enjoying cat camera action. We figured out how to use my phone as an extra camera, but neither cat are here at present, so no CatCam because no cat. Although Embla came to join us a little bit earlier on for some snacks, but she is quick to leave again when the snacks runneth dry. She's still young. She's only 2 years old, so she's still very energetic. And she wants to be where the action is. Which is not me just chilling out in my chair all day long. What we've been doing today, we've been finishing filming up some footage, and Soot has been snoozing on my lap while I've been working and filming. And she has been a very happy kitty. So hopefully there's going to be lots of good kitty footage to come, which is always very cute. I always look forward to. It's better than editing my own face that I can edit just a cat. It's much better. Thanks for the update. Yeah, I don't see the point of having a cat cam just displaying an empty basket if there is no cat to be had. So generally, if I haven't turned it on, it's either not working or there's no cat. At the moment, there is no cat, though it has been a bit laggy, so I'm hoping the internet connection will stay reliable. Knock on wood. I tried to log into the router and change the channels and do the thing that I was supposed to do, but we still disconnected a little bit right before the stream, so fingers crossed. I'm not actually sure that I fixed it, or if I just changed the settings and nothing actually changed. Trying to finish a crochet project I was waiting for more than 2 years in the pile. Oh, how nice to drag it out then. That is really like... Sometimes it's weird to drag things out of the, UFO pile of stuff that has been there for a while, and sometimes it can be really satisfying if it only needs a little bit of work, or suddenly you feel like you are up for doing it again. So good on you for picking up a project that has been waiting for you patiently. I have to admit, I can be a bit bad in that if I don't finish a project within a certain time, if I lose my oomph, I do run the risk of just frogging the entire thing because I kind of lose the drive and I don't really want to pick it up again. I just want to start something new, get that new project energy, which is not always the best use of my time, but at least when I frog it, I get the materials back into the pile for starting something new again. So I try to tell myself that it's not that, not that bad of a habit. I don't know. I don't usually have a ton of projects going at the same time. I know some of you do, like some people really like to have 10, 20 or more UFOs going at the same time so they can always pick whichever project calls out to them the most in the moment. But I never quite... My brain got a little bit stressed with that because there were too many unfinished sort of strings, sentences. Too many things going on in the brain at the same time trying to, keep track of. So generally, I don't think... Generally I have one or two, but I think I have more at the moment because I have some easy ones as well. So, but I don't think I usually have more than 5 going at the same time. Though I kind of would like to practice because it seems clever to have some long-term projects and some faster projects so that there's always something to be finished. The last day was really rough. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Papa. My flatmate came back from Merida and had found one more ball of yarn I'd been searching for, so now I can finally wrap up that project. Oh, that is so satisfying. If you haven't been able to wrap up a project because of not having enough yarn, getting some is amazing. So well done, or like that is good luck for that. I've also had some projects where it's like, oh yeah, they have a new dye lot and it's very different to what it used to look like, and now there will be a stripe in my project unless I think about something and do something creative to figure out how to deal with this. Or maybe I can just barely work it out if I play Yarn Chicken very, very, very carefully. Not that I've ever not bought enough yarn for a project straight away. But I'm hoping good finished project energy for everyone. I think this is starting to reach finishable shawl lengths. I'm not really sure because I cannot for the life of me remember how big the black shawl was on the needles before I cast it off. So either this is going to be a little bit too small or it's going to be just as oversized as the black shawl. That turned out a lot larger than I had anticipated when I finished blocking it. So I have no idea how big this one is going to be. Isn't creative knitting fun? It must be so satisfying to finally pick up a project after 2 years. Yeah, I agree, that must be really nice. I mean, the red sweater that I wear, although I haven't recently because it hasn't been that cold yet, took me 1.5 years as well because we were moving and doing other stuff and general chaos, so it's really nice to finally get those projects done, I do agree. And we are about to have some ads. If you're new here, we pause for ads, we just take a drink, tea, water of your choice and chill out. You don't miss anything, so don't worry. We'll be here when you come back. I'll be so happy when I reach the last stitches. Yeah. It's very nice to finish stuff. I think the difference between knitting and crochet for me is with crochet I can just pick up and put it down as and when. Knitting is more of a commitment. I can understand that, especially when it comes to shawls and big projects where, like, if you feel like you need to knit a whole needle before you can put it down, that does really become a commitment quite fast as the shawl grows, whereas with crochet it's just a stitch here and a stitch there. Though with simple projects like these shawls, I have been known also to put down the project in the middle of a needle, especially if I'm just going to grab something and coming back. But I do like finishing a needle before putting it away for the day. It can be confusing to be like, okay, which pattern repeat were we on? Where were we? Hello, Doro, welcome. Happy 31st of October, whatever that looks like to you. At least enough time to do a whole row, yeah, and they just take more and more time the bigger the shawl gets, which, I mean, I can understand the appeal of rectangular shawls, like the Shetland shawls, for that, because they are the same, like the rows take the same amount of time every time. Whereas with triangular shawls, they very much do not. You just spend more and more time with each round, with each increase that you do, which can be a bit of a challenge when you get to the end rows. And then, you know, it takes a long time. I think I was up to half an hour per row or close to with the very last rows. I wasn't timing it very closely, but I was trying to keep an eye on it. And I think I was between 20 and 30 minutes at the end for the really, really long rows, and that takes a while. Getting many lags and wondering if others are experiencing the same thing. I hope not. I haven't been getting, knock on wood again, I haven't been getting messages from YouTube on my end that my connection is poor since before the live stream. I did get a message just before the stream started, which scared me because I was noodling about with the router yesterday and hoped I had fixed the connectivity issues, but apparently maybe not, which is not the best. So I'm starting to run out of options for how to improve the stability, but I haven't been getting stability messages from YouTube yet, so if it is on my end, I don't know. It's something I can't see in that case, but if at least Haley is not getting connectivity issues, then maybe it is on your end. It's hard to say with these internet things when lag can come from either end, isn't it? I guess if I was proper, I should run an actual Ethernet cable instead of relying on the Wi-Fi. But it is ever so convenient to have Wi-Fi. Participate in an advent calendar with 25 people and most of them reenactors. Oh, interesting. So today I dug deep into my stash of fiber and fabric and came out with an idea of what to do 24 times. Oh, wow. So you're going to repeat it. I thought you weren't going to make like one gift for one other person and everyone else is going to make some, but so it's 24 little gifts. That is quite a commitment. It'll be exciting to hear what you get from the other reenactor friends. That sounds really fun. I'm only making an advent calendar for spouse, and even that one is a not low effort, just low cost, and it's like simple. I've been writing letters since the 1st of January, and then I will write another one on the 15th, and then since Norway does 24 Yule on the 24th, it'll be 24 letters exactly, 2 every month, and they're getting them beginning of December. So I'm quite excited for that. I've not tried that before, but I think I'm gonna appreciate it. I didn't know this when I started, but this year has not looked at all like we expected when it started. So of all the years I could have done this kind of thing, it seems to have been a valuable year to do it at, because it then sort of gives you something textual for us to look back at this madness of a year that has just been nothing like we anticipated it at all when we began 2024. So I hope they're gonna like it. It's I have not done it before, so we shall see if it becomes something we do every year or not. Last year I got a jigsaw puzzle and I split it up. I got 1,000-piece Yule themed jigsaw puzzle and I split it. First I sorted out the edges and they got that on the first, and then I split it into 23 other piles and gave them. So that was also a lot of fun. Although spouse thought it was a bit slow. They were missing more pieces so they could finish the puzzle. Should be this all the same for everybody? That is such an interesting idea. Yeah, that sounds like a really fun initiative to do. That sounds like a lot of fun to do amongst friends. But I know not everyone does advent calendars, but I know spouse likes advent calendars, so I try to do something for them. I have a friend who they were the ones who brought me onto the idea of jigsaw puzzle last year, because they had for several years bought their partner a Lego set, and then they would open it and read the instructions and sort of divide the steps by 24 roughly, so they have roughly the same amount of steps every day, and then they would go through and pick out the correct pieces, so that they had, like, if you were doing steps 1 to 3, they would pick out those pieces so that they had the pieces to do steps 1 to 3, and then 3 to 6, and then like whatever. So they, and I was like, wow, that is dedication to the to the craft. What fun. I haven't been quite so adamant. I didn't like puzzle the whole jigsaw puzzle in advance or anything like that and then give them sections. But I did sort out the edge pieces, and then they had to deal with the rest of the chaos as it arrived. I reconnected and it's working so far. Fingers crossed, Catherine. Let's hope that it stays that way. It could also come on my end, so we shall hope. It would be very nice if the internet stuff could stabilize. I'm kind of surprised. When we were living in the middle of nowhere, it seems we had more stable internet because we weren't sharing the airwaves with anyone else, so it worked better than here, where technically on paper we should have better internet, as in like more internet, more download and upload speeds and everything and amounts, but it's been less stable, which has been a bit interesting. Ooh, one. What's that I said about a row? Oops, taking half an hour? We started, 40 minutes ago, and that was one row. Granted, I knit much slower when I am talking to you guys as well, because it's something that I'm learning to accept, that anything you're trying to do will go a lot slower if you're also trying to talk to other people and read screens or film for that matter. You know, it always takes 2-3 times as long as it normally would if you're just doing it without having to focus on anything else. It's kind of why I've enjoyed. I've actually gotten some progress on this one since you last saw it on stream, because I've been chilling out when I've been tired and doing it on the couch in the evenings, and then it goes a lot faster than when I'm talking to you. So, ooh, I don't know if you can see this, if I can show it without actually hitting the microphone, but all of these zigzags have been done since we last hung out. So this is a good, what is that, 10 centimeters? That kind of just magically manifested in the evening without me really spending a long time on it. Just kind of evenings and some weekends when I'm trying to rest. Doing the whole thing with the taking care of yourself bit, that's hard, isn't it? And it's just kind of been growing, whereas when we are hanging out together, I usually don't manage to do more than 4 rows. So like 2 pattern rows and 2 purl rows before time is up. But progress is progress, so this was never a project that had to be done by a certain time. It was just that I enjoyed making a shawl so much that I wanted to start a new one immediately, and I have been working on this one on and off since the As You Like It shawl video, which has been many months. I don't remember when that was published, but it has been a long time ago, so I work very slowly on any project that isn't being filmed, and thus is down my priority list compared to anything that is filmed that automatically gets bumped up the priority list because that has a deadline of sorts. Good evening from Denmark. Hello Toria, welcome. Hope you are having a good Thursday evening. Daylight savings time weeks notwithstanding, it's always a bit interesting to see. I know they put it in the weekend so that people have higher chance of getting to work in time because capitalism, right? But still, it's always interesting on the Monday after to see how the buses are going, how people are like, are people getting to work in time? Is everything just mayhem and chaos and change? But you are very welcome. We are hanging out, and I'm still very curious. Like, I feel bad about turning off the lights so that hopefully, maybe, we won't be inundated with doorbell ringing while we are trying to hang out. But I also feel bad about not giving out candy to the little hopeful faces. Even though it isn't a Norwegian tradition, it is coming, and I don't know, I like celebrating seasons. And if this is the way we celebrate autumn, then I am here for it. I like sort of enjoying whichever season we are in and celebrating them in different ways. But yeah, I think it was 2 weeks ago now. Spouse had gotten those roses for the live stream, and I was sick. I was bedridden. I could not get streaming if I wanted to, and I was very sad. I shared a picture of the roses on the Discord, and since then we have dried them, so in a way we have roses. They are now just dried, so I suppose they are very fitting for this Halloween day to have dried roses instead. Spouse really likes drying flowers they bring into the house because it makes them last longer, and yeah, I think it's a cool thing to do. Why not? And roses are ever such a good non-toxic plant that does not harm the kitty babies in any way if they are curious about them. They are generally relatively good with plants, but it doesn't hurt to try to be careful. I finally made it. Hello Ash, welcome. I hope you are having a good day. We are just hanging out, doing some not very Halloweeny knitting, though I suppose I could pretend to be a lace knit ghost. Ooh. That is about as far as my costuming abilities go. I have not grown up with dressing up for Halloween, and I like making clothes that I use as much as possible, like use many, many days. And I like the idea of making costumes out of clothes you already have and already wear anyway. But I'm not big on dressing up. I struggle with looking in the mirror if I cannot recognize myself. It feels all sorts of weird. Though I really think it looks like a lot of fun. The people who really enjoy dressing up look like they are having a great deal of fun, which I do admire. But I don't think I quite have it in me. I just prefer to look like how I usually look. Face ghost, very spooky. I know, right? If it was done, we could have done the stream like that, but alas. Today I said goodbye to the Hedeby houses since it's the last day of the season. They won't reopen until end of March next year. That was my ritual today. Oh, that's a bit of a bittersweet thing, isn't it, when those places close? But luckily they will be there next year. It's always so interesting, the very different seasons when, it's market season and you're meeting all your friends, hanging out. Not that I can do much of that anymore. I get so sick from the sunlight. And then in winter, you're just huddled up at home in front of the fireplace, making clothes or crafts for selling for next year's market season. And it's very nice to have that ebb and flow of the year. I enjoy that. I struggle when a job is the same day in and day out all year long. Like, I enjoy having some sort of seasonality to a job, like maintenance happens at this time, and then we do these analysis at this time, and then we prepare for this at this time. Here we help the master students finish up whatever you have. Like, I enjoy having changing tasks throughout the year as a way to keep things seasonal. My name is Autumn. Oh, that's a lovely name. I never really liked my name, to be honest, but it's the name that I'm used to, so it's the name we're gonna go with. I just think it's boring, but Autumn is a lovely name. I think there are so many more interesting names, but it is me and it is my name, and I don't think I would get used to another name, so I'm gonna keep it. I just never really identified with it. I always try to make my cosplays out of things I'll wear by themselves. Yeah, I think if I was to make costumes, that is how I would try to do it, because when you're spending so much time and effort and love and creativity on a project, I want to wear it outside of just like once or twice a year when you're wearing the costume. That was one of the biggest reasons I started, because I started sewing as an adult. I started sewing clothes for Viking reenactment to go to Viking markets with my friends, and that is so much fun. I mean, do recommend. It's a lot of fun geeking out and sewing and crafting. But I realized that I was spending most of the year working on clothes that I only got to wear maybe 1 to 2 weeks out of the year. And the rest of the time I was just wearing hand-me-downs and secondhand clothes, whatever I could find that, kept me appropriately dressed for university classes and what have you, that I could live with. And I was like, why don't I try to make clothes that I want to wear the other 50 weeks of the year as well? Clothes that I'll actually enjoy wearing, that will last, that will bring me joy, makes you smile when you're wearing them. And so I started trying to do that, and I am no expert by any means. I am just trying things out and seeing what works, but it's bringing me a lot of joy. Like, I'm starting to get more and more pieces that I do wear that I have made, and it's like, yeah, I made that. It's pretty cool. I prefer to dress up in historical clothing. It's as pretty as it is comfy, I agree. 10th century is a very good period of time for comfy clothing. I guess I could technically wear my Viking gear as Halloween costume. I didn't think of that. I didn't didn't even strike me. But yeah, I could of course do that. It's not a bad idea. But yeah, they are very comfy, and in winter when it's cold, all those layers of wool. Yes. All the wool, all the time. Luckily, I get to wear my reenactment clothing quite a bit as I'm part of a history club. Oh, that's lovely. Yeah. I know a person, I used to reenact with a lovely person from the north who now works in a Viking museum, so they also get to wear their costumes quite a lot, and I think that it looks like a lot of fun, at least what they share. Of course, you always share the good stuff, but that looks like quite a bit of fun to do that. I just kind of fell out of the habit of doing it because with the outdoor camping, I get migraines from being out in the sun all day, and it's just naturally kind of falling away as I spend more time indoors, which is sad, but I do get to hang out with my friends outside of markets too. Like, I'm going to see some of them in winter, and I live close by some of them, so it's not all bad. It is what it is. We make the best of it. I remember being quite impressed during a Viking market when someone were hanging their thigh-high needle-bound socks to dry, because that is a lot of work and dedication, and fit issues because there is such a big size difference from the ankle to the thigh, so you really have to pay attention to what you're doing, but you'll certainly not be cold if you have those, which is very nice. And you never know when you go to Viking markets in Norway if it's going to be a really warm one or if it's going to be really cold. If you're further north, of course, the risk increases that you're gonna get a cold market, but even in the south, you never know if it's going to be rainy and cloudy or if it's going to be sweltering hot and you're all running around in your linens hoping for rain. You just have to be prepared for both. I want to learn needle binding next. I need some nice socks to wear. I recommend it. If you like crochet, like, I think of needle binding and crochet as fairly similar because they're both worked one loop at a time and in the round. And socks are pretty easy. You can definitely do that. I think that's like the one basic needle binding video that I still have left to do. I have done a pair of mittens, and I've done a hat. I haven't done socks, but they are very easy and there are plenty of good tutorials out there, and it's really fun. I think it's a really fun craft to do. Especially here in Norway, you'll get crafty older women who are, they pride themselves in knowing a lot about crafts, and then you show up with a hat and they're like, what is that? Some of them know, some of them don't, but you get into conversations, which is fun, because they're often a bit surprised at what you're wearing. Hello, Max. You don't have to apologize. It's alright. We are just hanging out. No worries about being late or anything. I definitely commiserate when it comes to migraines, but yeah. Happy Halloween and happy Diwali and 31st of October in general. We are just having a chill little time. Nothing really. If I was more dedicated to the Halloween bit, I could have dressed up, but we have been slowly decorating the workroom for Halloween a little bit more, so I will take that as the costuming the room. How long have I been knitting? God's Chills Brown. I have been knitting. It's probably been almost 30 years at this point. Not quite. I don't think I started quite that young, but somewhere between 25 and 30 years. I think I started around 6 or 7. Maybe 8. I don't think it was quite that late. No, it was around school. My grandmother started teaching me, and I actually started knitting left-handed, and my grandmother didn't mind. She had a very flexible mind and could just adapt to mirroring what I was doing, and taught me knitting and purling and all the different things. And then when I got home again, I was told that if I wanted help with knitting, I had to switch to knitting right-handed instead, because at home I would get no help if I was knitting the wrong way. So I managed to. So when you're a child, you appreciate help when you're getting stuck, when you're just learning a new skill. So I interpreted that as I have to learn to knit right-handed instead of left-handed. So after a bit of trial and error, I managed to flip my knitting around. So now I knit right-handed even though I'm left-handed. And but yeah, it's been quite a few years, but I didn't knit so much as a teenager. It's kind of something that I've gotten back to as an adult. It's never been very advanced. It's just, fairly basic. I've never really liked following patterns. That goes for sewing and knitting alike. I often make things up as I go, so I'll follow diagrams, lace knit diagrams, things for patterns that makes beautiful shapes, but I'll often figure out like what is the pattern? What is the pattern doing, the overarching thing? Like a raglan sweater is increased by 2 in each seam in the 4 corners, and if you know that as the basis, you can add whatever pattern you like because you know the formula. Same with this shawl. That's like the pattern that I made, the As You Like It pattern that I've tried to write down to give to you viewers is kind of an example of how I think. It's like the rules are that you increase in each side and then 2 in the middle every time you knit, and then you purl back, and then in between that the pattern can be anything you want, so you can just do whatever madness you like, which I really enjoy. I find that creative freedom really freeing. It makes me enjoy knitting a lot more, whereas if I have to refer to a pattern all the time, I'm like, am I there? Am I doing it right? Is it correct? Is it wrong? I don't enjoy knitting quite as much, so that's just how I prefer. But it has the unfortunate side effect that since I haven't really read a lot of patterns because I don't prefer it, I also get a bit, when I see all the abbreviations in a text-written pattern, I go a bit cross-eyed and go, on second thought, maybe no thank you, and then I just invent some random stuff. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You do more frogging that way, but it can also be very fun. We are about to have ads, so just one moment. Probably is going to be a pair of fingerless gloves in Dalby stitch, or possibly at least a pair of fingered gloves for winter. I'm using my Dollar Tree yarn. Color is ruby garnet. Matches my persona. Oh, that sounds nice. It's a very nice project. Fingerless gloves are always appreciated. It's very nice. Nice. I think that's pretty advanced knitting, to be honest. I don't know, I guess that depends on how you think of it. I mean, I'm not very good at reading patterns, to be honest, because I've never practiced that skill. I just go straight to the diagram and then I make up the rest, which, depending on your view on it, is either pretty basic, or advanced. It's just how my brain works. It's not really either which way. But the problem with that is that I also don't like writing down what I do and documenting, which I know I should do. Makes things easier for myself if I want to redo something later. But so the As You Like It shawl, I had that idea and I wanted to make it for over a year before I actually sat myself down to figure out the diagrams. Because I knew that I wanted diagrams that, for ease of symmetry for people, I wanted them to add up to 8. So 8 and 16 were the numbers that I landed on. So I had to like rewrite a couple of diagrams to make them all fit into the formula that I had chosen. And I did not want to do that. My brain just wanted to knit it. I did not want to document it. So it took me a year before I actually sat down to make the diagrams that I wanted to share with you so that I could make the video, because I did not want to. I just wanted to knit and just make stuff up. Good evening, Alex. Welcome. We are having a lovely little 31st of October chill little stream. Hope you are having a good day. It is a very quiet day so far here. So, oh yeah, and I'm dropping stitches. That is really great when you're doing lace knit. A moment. Come back here. Alright. Are we good for yarn overs? We are. Okay, excellent. Making up the rest. I don't know. It depends on how your brain works. I don't think anything is more advanced or better or worse than anything else. It's just figure out what your brain prefers and go with that. If you forced me to read the abbreviated patterns with like SC, HR, I would probably not knit a whole lot because I don't enjoy it as much. But for people who really enjoy that, they do a lot of gorgeous stuff. It's just like we talk about the yarn fiber content and whatever, like just use what brings you joy and what you're able to access. There is no yarn or fiber police here, like judging anyone for the fiber content of their creative outlet. Like being creative and not judging yourself or others can be just the goal in itself, I think. It doesn't have to be complicated. Just because I prefer natural fibers and I craft so slowly and I have the luxury of accessibility, I am never going to judge other people for making other choices. That is just not what we want to encourage here. I would want people to be creative, to make stuff with their hands and feel the joy and the mastery of having made something, feeling that sense of fulfillment of making something with your hands, which we know from the research is really quite important. That hand-to-brain connection. You see that old people who have physical crafts, like we had a neighbor who did wood carving, their brains just stay healthy for longer because doing stuff with your hands help keep your brain healthy. So just make stuff with your hands. I don't really, it doesn't matter to me what it is. I love that people are doing stuff, creating stuff, making things and having fun doing it without judgment or perfectionistic struggles. It doesn't have to be whatever perfect is. It's just meant to bring joy. The other side of it is lack of flexibility. If you're too reliant on patterns, it's different skill sets that balance you or not after all. Yeah, it definitely is. I have known some people who have been knitting for 50 years and they only follow patterns. They never write their own because they've only ever followed patterns. And that can be its own, sometimes it's a confidence problem, sometimes that is just what they prefer. But I'm like, ma'am, you've been knitting for 50 years. Of course you could write a pattern if you wanted to design something that fits with a loved one's hobby or craft or whatever it is. Of course you could. You've been doing this for 50 years. Of course you can do it. Wondering if I could make a pair of mittens inspired by the Delvish stitch used in Sweden. I assume that it's made in either a round stitch or at the wrist. I'm not sure which one is made. I'm not sure. I think you would know more about that than I do, Max, since you are very proficient in needle binding and stitches. I couldn't... I mean, most stitches work in the round, even if you use a different stitch to start the chain, if it doesn't want to become a chain on its own. I would just cheat it in that way, but you have a lot of experience in that regard. I'm sure you will figure out something clever, and it'll turn out very nice. I'm tempted to consider starting casting this off and have a fairly small shawl, just because I feel like it is time. It's time to start making gifts for Yule, the Yule season and winter. Not that I make that many gifts, to be quite honest. I have sort of trained friends and relatives that I would prefer not to exchange gifts unless we are celebrating something together or we have agreed to something. I would much prefer if we just donate something to charity, because you have so much stuff already. There are so few things that I need, so ma'am, those yarn overs are in the wrong place. What have you been doing? Okay, we can always just... Okay, you are over there, and then you should be my yarn over. Come here. And an extra stitch. You should yarn over. An extra stitch. Oh, well, I'm gonna have to repeat that over there as well. Can't wait for my 26th birthday to go up. That sounds nice, Max. I kind of admire people who have a good relationship with their birthdays. I have a somewhat contested one, but I am glad you are enjoying yours. That I think is the best way of doing things. Come on, madam, we have a stream to attend. Why, you need to communicate with people, not just figure out what you've been doing wrong the first two repeats, since you are doing other stuff at the same time. There we go. 2. And then you are also wrong and need to be redone. It should be one less. Lace knit has to be, though, I will say, my least favorite type of knitting to fix when you made a mistake, because getting the holes right can be a time. Luckily this was a very easy one. Usually I don't bother, to be honest, because it's just so finicky. Oh, it's so finicky. Something I don't really want to do. But if there's enough straight stitches around, you can generally work it out. But there, are we good to go now? Hopefully. His name is nice to celebrate? Yeah, it's good to celebrate. It's good to celebrate things. We were just talking about how I enjoy celebrating autumn, even if Halloween or Samhain, neither are celebrations of mine, but it's just nice to celebrate stuff. Having fun with things. One, two, and then you. This one, two. You are the one I want. And then yarn over, and then we are back in business. Did anyone see Walden's Halloween gloves video? They were jaw-droppingly stunning. Oh, I believe that. He's so talented. I haven't had the chance to see it yet. It's been chaos and mayhem, and we haven't really had time to do much of anything, but I absolutely believe that they are gorgeous because Yenta is so skilled. I'm kind of curious now. Let's see if we can find if they are generous enough to just show us in the thumbnail, or if we need to click on it, in which case I will have a problem because my current setup does not separate between music from the music player and anything else, which is the challenge. Please don't autoplay. No, no autoplay, please. Stop, stop. No sound. Oh wow, they are so gorgeous. That's really, really cool. Very much worth looking into. Super, super cool. There are so many skilled people everywhere. I love to see when people are enthusiastic about things that they love to do. It doesn't even matter if it's not an interest I share, it's just enthusiastic people are nice and just gives you a good mood. I just watched it. Oh yeah, some good love for Yente in the chat. We love to see it. And if you haven't, you definitely should go check them out. They are amazing. I will definitely watch that a little bit later when I'm not trying to not blast your ears full of music on top of other music that is already playing that I don't have volume control of. It's the challenge of having Ubuntu Linux machine, is that, you know, you don't always have all the tools that are available to Windows, or I haven't figured out how to install it yet. So sometimes things are a little bit more bare bones, but usually things work out really well. It's not as hard as it was in the beginning. Generally, things are available and possible to figure out, and people are so helpful when you have questions online. There is such a passionate community with people helping out, so I love to see that. But yeah, this is why we have the video recommendation in the Discord too, because I mean, no one can make enough content if someone wants to watch all the time, so it's so much better if we just recommend cool stuff to each other, and then everyone gets to enjoy more cool things. Look at the skulls on the thumbs? Yes. I love when you take those traditional, you know, feminine, soft, flowery crafts, whatever, and you modernize them, you put skulls on them, you do the guerrilla embroidery where you write swear words in the middle of floral embroidery, and just do those discrepancies, have fun with it, do that little, you know, expectation subversion. People don't really expect the thing that you're doing, and you know, they think it looks like one thing from afar, but then when they zoom in, they actually see that it's something entirely different. I think that is the best fun. I need to do more of that. I'm not good at doing it myself, I just really admire when other people do it. But I think that is a lot of fun, that, you know, melding between a traditional craft that is seen in a certain light, and then you bring it into the modern age and you put your own spin on it and you have fun with it. You know, you make it queer, you give it skulls, you do fun stuff with it, make it your own, and I just love it. Whenever things like that show up in my feed, I am like, yes, this is, you know, taking the crafts with us and putting our own spin on it is just so cool. Like, people are just so creative, and I love to see what people make when they just get free reign, when they do, like, no one is telling them that you can't do that because that's not done, and I'm like, no, of course they can. You see that they can. It's very possible. I know I've talked about that before, but I just think it's the best when people do stuff like that. It's the coolest. Like when you have goth skull shawls that are, you know, very meticulously embroidered. You have like lace collars that are also, you know, crocheted, just details. And that also goes to, like, I wish that I could find more fabrics like that, but maybe I just need to embroider it myself. Where I've seen people who have like a dress that looks like it has snowflakes from afar, but when you zoom in, each arm of the snowflake is actually a dinosaur. Things like that, where the fabric looks like it's one thing, but if you actually look closely at it, it's something else. It's one of the things that I loved about tablet weaving, because from afar, if you don't know what it is, you might not think much of it. We just buy trim these days, it's probably just machine made, but for someone who knows what it is, they see the work and they see the skill and the craft, but you wouldn't know unless you're in the know, if that makes sense. Like, I love crafts that look simple from afar, but when you zoom in, you're like blown away by the level of detail. Because again, this expectation subversion, in some way, shape, or form, people expect one thing, but then it's actually a little bit different. I could go on about that forever because it's so cool. It's one of the reasons I want to become a chemistry and crafts teacher. People are always seem so confused, but I love both STEM and crafts. Yes, I support this. I also love that more and more women in STEM specifically are showing up as versions of themselves that they wanted to see when they were kids. So there is a Norwegian physician, physicist is the word in English, not physician is a doctor, but a physicist who specifically shows up to conferences, to work, to educations, to like teaching classes in bright pink and high heels. And it's specifically to show that you can be a woman in STEM and you can also be feminine. You can also enjoy pink. You don't have to dress like a guy. And I think that is really cool. You also have some others I've seen where they're like, yeah, I dress in my daughter's favorite clothes so that she can see that this is something attainable, this is something achievable, and I'm here for it. Reminds me of that law firm in the US that is entirely made up of women in bright pink suits, and they are doing a really good job in the courtroom against the men who underestimated them, because they see the pink skirt suits and they think that this is going to be an easy win, and they have just been making absolute waves. And I love to see that kind of confidence, because it can be hard, in STEM, because it's such a traditionally male-dominated field to stand out. They are just showing up in jeans and t-shirts on university campuses, but you don't have to do that. You can do something else. We know that the brain doesn't care what you're wearing. You're just out and about doing your job. So wearing things that bring you joy, yes. And absolutely being an arts and crafts and chemistry teacher, I support that 100%. That is really, really cool. You go for actually knowing what you want and going for it. Where did my thought go? Ma'am, there's supposed to be a yarn over here. That's what I get for streaming and knitting at the same time. Come on, we can do this. There we go. Are we back to normal now? Oops. Putting a needle-bound hat on a skull so it would fit perfectly? That sounds like fun. I don't know which would be cheaper beyond a skull and a mannequin. Depends on like what kind of skull or mannequin you want. You might be able to find something secondhand. It's usually the cheapest, but mannequins can be quite expensive. Although I'm thinking of sewing mannequins, not store mannequins. So I have no idea what those things cost, to be honest. Can't interact while you keep me company while working. Thankful for that. Well, yeah, I'm glad you are enjoying that, Liart. You are very welcome to hang out with us. It is very much no requirement for interaction, much as it is very fun to hear people's thoughts and plans and shenanigans. I'm not a very feminine person, but back when I was in IT trainer and teaching advanced courses, I would show up in long, flowy skirts and ruffled tops, purely to mess with the predominantly male attendees' assumptions. Oh, I love that. Yes. I was never very good at things like that because I just have my clothes and I just go like, this is my work uniform and this is what I wear, so I don't have to think about it. But I love people who do that. It's so great when they also, wipe the floor with the males if they have assumptions and they are being rude. Like the classical story of people mansplaining and then referencing people's research right back at them, and they're like, you realize I wrote that paper right, and they don't compute. It's just good to have people challenge their expectations and assumptions. We all need that once in a while, because we all have assumptions that, conscious or unconscious, that we need to work on, to address, and to weed out of our consciousness, biases and things that we sort of assume and don't realize we assume until they're hitting us in the face. And having those small, exercises can really help in the daily, I feel like. It's honestly one of the reasons that I refer to spouse with they, them pronouns. The spouse uses any pronouns, but I specifically use, and we've talked about this with spouse, that I want to use they, them pronouns predominantly online, because hopefully then people stop and, don't assume the heteronormative as the norm. Because why? Why would you assume the heteronormative as the norm? Why do we do that? It's more fun if people actually stop to think about it, and why does it need to be a thing anyway? I like that in Norway we have a term for boyfriend or girlfriend that is gender neutral. And it's partner, I feel, is the closest you get in English, but kjæreste means like the dearest. It just means dearest. And it's the most common word for boyfriend or girlfriend. And it's very accepted, and it's nice that it doesn't need to be introduced as a gender neutral term. It already exists. It gets used by anyone, and I just love to see that. Because why? We all need to have those norms challenged. I mean, I would never try to claim that I have no biases, because of course I do. I'm a white woman grown up in a predominantly white European society. Of course there are biases that I haven't always noticed or addressed, but I do try to look at them when I can, and hopefully not bring harm to people, but there's always stuff we can work on. It's all part of the not perfectionistic mindset that of course we are not perfect human beings. Well, we are perfect in our imperfections, and that can be good enough, but there's always stuff to reflect on, stuff to work on, things I could have handled better or differently, and I want that to be the expectation that people have of me. I don't want people to put me on a pedestal and be like, oh yeah, they could do no wrong. Of course I could do wrong. Of course I could. That's just life for you. When I was working at court, the youngest judge, 10 years older than me at the time, would wear bright red lipstick and flowery tiered boho skirts to work. She rocked and was an inspiration. Oh, I love that. I love when they are so visible and such an inspiration to the people around them. That's just so cool. I love good role models, and seeing them around the world everywhere is just so cool. And we are about to have some more ads, so pardon me while I get my kettle that is off screen, because our table is full of fun stuff. Gotta go. Thanks for hanging out. Well, good. Thank you for hanging out with us, Nelly. I hope you have a good rest of your day. One of my colleagues automatically assumes someone is diabetic. That is a strange assumption to have automatically about other people, unless maybe they are diabetic themselves, but yeah, as having these assumptions, if you don't realize that they are assumptions, that they are not actually something you've checked with the other people, can be hurtful and damaging. And especially we have like, I've had examples of people who, you get told who you are, and that can be really damaging. Like if you've behaved a certain way 10 years ago, people still expect you to be that person, and they try to sort of tell you without telling you, sort of subtly try to put you back in that box. And that is something that can be really, really hurtful when that person is like, yeah, but there's more to me. There's other things I've changed, and the other person refuses to see it. That can be really devastating and hurtful and negative. Because people change, just like we change, other people change too. And sometimes we have to get to know a friend all over again if we haven't seen them in a while. And that can be difficult to remember because we have such a strong image in our heads of who they were when we were teenagers, or whatever time is, and not even realize that we are putting assumptions on them that may no longer be true. She was an inspiration for one of the characters in my novel that was in the late 80s, early 90s. So a long time ago. Well, not that long ago. But that is really cool. It's really nice when you get those inspirations. I was very lucky to have a very influential person as well. When I moved for university, when I left home, I had really broken down winter boots. Like my family had this stack of shoes in various states of disrepair, and whenever winter came around, you would just go downstairs and try to see if you could find something that fit from the secondhand shoes, and they had been worn by like everyone, especially if they were children's shoes. And I did the same thing when I went to university. I needed some boots that I could fit some wool socks inside, and I tried to find some, and there were some really raggedy, already pretty broken leather boots that I brought with me. And they broke more since I was using them quite a bit in winter. So I brought them to the cobbler, and they fixed them up for me. And one of them, lovely gentleman, noticed something about something I was wearing, and was like, I think you would join. I think it was a steampunk clock or something like that with a chain. I still really like clocks. And they said, I think you would enjoy our archery group. And so I went and I joined, and I started a new hobby, and I met some really amazing people. That is how I got to know the reenactors that I, call my friends, and I'm very honored to call my friends. And I met a lovely lady who just had an ability to communicate with people that is beyond anything I had experienced up until that point. Like, she is empathetic, she's kind, and she's able to do that thing that is so valuable, especially when you have a hobby that kind of attracts autistic, slightly clumsy young adults that maybe struggle a bit with communication, maybe don't always understand the subtext. And she would have this very good way of pulling someone aside and talking to them about, this is how it would be interpreted by the other person. Like, if this was your intent, maybe this is an easier way to communicate. And many people saw her as a mothering figure because she was older than a lot of the other archers, but she was very specific that she didn't want to be put in that role exclusively. She reminded people that she's also a person that has needs and need to talk to other people and need to vent and rest and be taken care of as well, And that was so valuable to have that person in my early 20s to be shown, good emotional regulation, care. It was the first time I was completely included in a group where I was invited to all the events with no reservations. I was fully included, and it was the first time I ever experienced that. I was 20 years old, and I had not really experienced that before, and it still stands to this day as one of the most important people that taught me how to be a better person. I still owe her so much. I'm so grateful to her that our paths crossed, and that, she shared her life and her kindness with me, because it taught me so much. And that is one of the reasons why I sometimes keep talking about how we all sort of make impressions on each other. Like, you can't go through life and not have an impact on others, positive or negative or neutral. Like, we are always, when we are conversing, we're under risk. Like, that's a wrong way of saying it, but you never know who's gonna react to something you're saying and be like, oh, that is really resonating with me today. I'm gonna go and do this thing because of that. Like, every interaction you have with other humans can change you, can reveal something, can be important if we let it. And there are so many things that I feel like there are so many where you know that, oh, I should do this thing because this would be good for me. Or you should practice, self-love and, trying to tell yourself that you are worth it and that you are worthy of love and all of those kinds of things. And I always had this feeling that knowing it intellectually is one thing, and then it's a long path, many years of trying to work on yourself as a person before you actually start to accept some of the things on an emotional level. Like, knowing intellectually that something makes sense doesn't mean that you truly believe it all the way to your core. That takes a lot of work and effort, and my goodness, working on myself is the slowest, most frustrating thing, and yet also the thing that is just the most worthy of, the thing that has a lot of value to me. But my goodness, it is so slow. The progress is so slow, and you take a step in, 2 steps forward and a step backwards, and you're just, why? But it is worth it. It's hard and it's slow, but it's worth it. Like, this, I do believe that. Absolutely. Yeah, it can be hard too when people assume gender and sexuality in one fell swoop. It can be challenging. It's hard when that is the society that people are kind of used to. I've never really experienced a lot of that. I mean, I am very female presenting and haven't really had those issues. I know people who find that very painful, which I think that is absolutely something to respect the best we can. For me, it was always just that my brain is, or like, my body is the vehicle which drives my brain around. If it works, that is good. That is what we want. If it can go for walks, if it can lift things and help friends, I am happy. Beyond that, I don't really have a strong gender identity of sorts. But I know that for some people it can be very painful to have the wrong assumptions, so my commiserations, Max. That is quite hard to deal with, but yeah. Gender and all of the things can be a challenging topic to deal with. Are you gonna become nice hexagons? Doing hexagon things? I hope so. I haven't even gotten one kitty visitor since Embla came to have some snacks at the very beginning of our time together. It's unusual, but Soot has been sleeping on my lap most of the day while I've been knitting and filming, so maybe she was full up on snuggles for the moment and just wanted to sleep by herself, where I don't put knitting things on her back and keep changing positions when she'd just fallen asleep, and all of those things that can frustrate a poor cat just trying to have her nap. Well-deserved snoozy nap. Welcome, NB Fairy, you are most welcome. So no need to apologize for being late. We just hang out whenever we want. I am working on a As You Like It shawl, so not very Halloweeny, apart from, as we were joking about earlier, like I could wear it as a ghost costume, I suppose. That is about it. It would get a bit warm to breathe in after a while, but maybe that's what we should do next year. We should all be lace ghosts. But yeah, I've been doing almost as soon as I finished the black As You Like It shawl and made a video and edited and uploaded it to the channel, I started a white one because I had quite a lot of fun making the black one. So I got some of my other yarn that was hanging out and just instantly started a new one. And we have been slowly making progress on it because it's the same technique and method that I used for the black one, so it didn't seem like it's not going to be filmed other than for us hanging out in the live stream. So I've just been slowly picking away at it as we hang out. Recently I've actually been knitting on this off stream as well, so I've been making some more progress than that, but since the first one was a gift, this one I thought I was going to maybe keep for myself, so I can have something when I just want to throw something over my shoulders. And so right now I am working on the hexagon pattern for the As You Like It shawl. I mean, the pattern keeps changing. That's the whole that's the whole point. Oh, I remember this one. Yeah, I've been working on this one for a while. A lot of the projects for the stream are like long-term projects because whatever I'm not filming takes forever to finish because it ends up at the bottom of the priority list. But I have to admit I've been really enjoying working on this one in the evenings when I'm tired, because it's fairly easy once you get into the hang of it. And with as big as it is now, once you figure out what the pattern is, that's going to be the pattern, the repeats that you're doing for the next several hundred stitches. So it's a very forgiving pattern to do when you're a little bit exhausted. You're trying to do that thing with the rest and the self-care. It's a very nice meditative, physical meditative repetitive movement. Someone I think in the Discord called it something very specific, repetitive action as a soothing thing for the brain, and I can't remember what it was, but I've been calling it like physical meditation of sorts, where you just sort of, your hands are working but your brain is just off on adventures, either resting or thinking about things or just zoning out. It feels very restful to me. It's a very restorative thing to do if I'm not watching anything. I'm just sitting there, just zoning out and letting the hands do the work that it knows how to do. It's something I need regularly to stay mentally healthy-ish. It's really something that I enjoy. It's a bit like going for a walk. I feel like your legs are just off walking and your brain is just wandering off in other places because you can just look at where you're going. And I don't know, it's just really soothing in a way. It's still very challenging for me. I really have to focus and concentrate. It's good. I'm sure that's good for my brain. Yeah, that is also good for the brain. Like, we've talked about that. The whole restful project that is easy, and then the challenging project that is, doing something you haven't done before to challenge your your brain at the same time. And if you haven't done lace knit before, I can imagine that it's quite a challenging thing to do. I have to really focus when I'm doing color work, because for me that is not something I do very often. I default to lace knit because then I only have one thread, and things get very, squishy and soft and very stretchy. Whereas as soon as you bring in more than one color to knitting, you lose a lot of the flexibility, but you get some gorgeous colors. But I like the flexibility. But for like cardigans and things that button up where you don't need the flexibility, color work can be gorgeous. Plus it makes it more warmer, which is very nice. But then I really have to focus, because that is not the patterns that I'm used to reading and thinking about in my head. So I can really commiserate Catpaw that it's difficult when it's something new that you're not used to. It is one of the reasons I'm like, I don't think I'm the best knitting teacher, because I forget what it's like to be a beginner of knitting, because for me, I've been knitting most of my life. Like, it's not even half my life now, it's like 3/4, like more than that. It's most of my life. I have known how to knit to some extent, like pretty basic in the beginning, but so it's that I'm trying to remember that how it is to be a beginner again can be hard, which you also see in professors in university that try to teach basic courses in their field of expertise, and they're struggling because to them these core concepts are just so ingrained by now that they don't remember what it was like to struggle with them. And that can be very hard when you're teaching, to make sure that you cover those things and pay attention when they look like big question marks about things. See, I'm good with textures and color work? Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about, Catpaw. Like, for you that will probably be easier, and for me color work is much harder because I do it very seldom. So it all depends on what you do more often. Did I finish my color work neck warmer? I think it had orange leaves on it. I did. I just finished it. I was considering like saving the finishing touches until the live stream, but I really wanted to finish it because I ended up filming it after all. So it's right now it is lying in on top of the washing machine drying. I have been blocking it, so hopefully I will get to finish that one soon. And then it was actually snowing today. I didn't get to film it because Sud was on my lap and I didn't have the heart to move her. But it is the season for warm wool things. And I think it will look really good on Spouse, because Spouse has really dark colors. So it is a dark brown with a lot of orange plant-dyed colors in the leaves. So I'm hoping it will look good. So you shall see that probably later. Not this week, I don't think. I can't edit very fast at all, so there's no chance I'll have that by Saturday. But maybe next Saturday. Like, I don't like making promises on the great internet, but it is. We shall see how it goes. I've been trying to work on the raw footage in the mornings. Spouse found a secondhand, one of those walking pads, I think they're called, like the things that you put under your desk. So I've been trying to do, like, before I sit down to knit and film, I've been trying to do a little bit of editing of the raw footage while I like go for a little walk for an hour or two. And that has been really helpful, because one of the things I really struggle with when it comes to editing is previously I would film everything and then I would import the footage and I would edit everything and then upload the video. But that very first edit, when you're taking all the raw footage and like cutting it down into the most usable clips, was always really demotivating, because I would have like 4 hours of footage, maybe 5, and then I'm trying to cut it down to something like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and then I'm like doing the script and like I know what I have and I can change things, or like I've been making script notes while I'm filming, but I will finalize the script and then I'll record the script and I'll do the second edit and make things fit with the script and all of that. But that first edit is so hard because it's those 5 hours just makes me go, oh, don't want to. And then I procrastinate and I struggle with getting it done. So what I've been experimenting with was, instead of having that big block of work at the end of trying to import the footage kind of after filming 1 day or 2 days, importing it, and then in the morning trying to just go through just the first edit, just chopping off, the beginnings and ends, the things that you are not going to use anyway, and then doing the filming. So I managed to sort of keep having that raw edit be under an hour, because I've been chopping away at it. I've been like cutting it down gradually as I've been filming, and that has been really good so far. Like, knock on wood, it's only been one project so far, but it feels nice because I've been able to keep the total project size under an hour, and that makes me more enthusiastic about jumping into the editing, because it isn't such a big block of work that it's intimidating. So I'm hoping that I will manage to establish that habit, that as I'm sewing I will import a little bit and do a little bit of editing in the morning before I keep filming. It's really good to try to start this habit in winter, because it's so dark in the morning anyway that it can be hard to film. So I'm trying to establish that habit. We shall see if I manage to keep it. That is always the thing, isn't it? Starting a habit is one thing, but keeping at it is really the challenging part. Which is a lot more of an answer than you were asking for, but filming seems super hard, not only learning all the technologies and filming angles and lighting and everything, then all of the editing. The editing is the part that I'm slowest at, that I'm the least good at. That's the part I want to improve the most. I'm very slow at editing. I wish I was faster, and I might get faster by doing it like this, because I'm more motivated to do the thing and I'm like procrastinating less. But even if I spent the same amount of time in total on the editing as when I just do all the editing in one go, I think it would feel better, which sometimes that is valuable in and of itself, that you feel more motivated to do the thing because it isn't as overwhelming. But I mean, yeah, it's a whole skill set in and of itself. People sometimes forget that you spend most of the time at your desk editing, working on the video more than you do filming the video, and filming anything makes it take 2 to 3 times longer than it would have if you just did the thing without trying to document it at the same time. And it's just... But it's fun too, though. I like learning new things. And now my brain is, broken to the point where I'm watching other videos or movies or other YouTubers doing amazing things, and I'm like, oh, I see how you made that work, like I see how you did that edit. And then you want to go and try and do it yourself, so you get, that problem with when you're working on a thing. You start to see how it is done elsewhere, and your brain kind of doesn't really shut it off. It's like when you know chemistry and you watch like NCIS or CSI or anything like that, and you're like, that is not how a GC works. And you have a hard time disposing of your disbelief, because like, that's not actually how that works, but I'm trying to not make it harder for myself to enjoy this show. But I still think it's a fun thing. Like, I'm very glad that I tried making videos before I finished my contract. Because if I just jumped in after, you don't know if you enjoy it. So I think that's one thing, like, if you don't know if you're going to enjoy this kind of job or this kind of job, the easiest is, rather than thinking about it, would be to try it if you can. Because then you get an answer, like maybe you enjoy it, or maybe not, but at least you've tried, instead of being that person who ends up sitting and wondering and wondering and wondering for years on end, which can be really, really frustrating. So I try to just jump in and just do the thing, and treat everything as an experiment. Because if everything is an experiment, you don't get wins and fails, you just get results. Like, treating your life and thinking like a scientist has been so helpful, because whenever I try to do something new for a video, I'm like, it didn't fail, you're just getting results. You know more about what works and what doesn't. And I find that mindset much more helpful than, I know some people really feel like they fail if a video doesn't perform above a certain level, and that can be really harmful to their mental health. So I try to practice, not that I can always do that, but I try to practice, just seeing it as experiments, but it's not as easy as, it's never as easy as one wants it to be. Still, we try. Yeah, I want people to try things. You don't know if you like it or not if you don't try it. And a lot of the time, like, I have this, I guess, pet peeve, maybe. Pardon the noise, Spouse came home. This pet peeve related to the word talent. Like, some people will say, oh, you're so talented, as a shorthand for, oh, you were just born with it. But a lot of the time, talent is, a sum of many things. You have to have an interest in the thing to begin with. You have to have the time and the resources to pursue it. Like, it doesn't help if you have an interest in ballet, if you're especially as a child, like if your parents don't have the resources or the time to let you attend ballet school and like do it at a high level. So it doesn't help what you have an interest in unless you also have the ability and the time to pursue the interest. And a lot of the time that is kind of what talent boils down to, is, you have an interest in doing a thing, which as children we have an interest in many different things and can follow many different routes, but it's that time and opportunity to follow the interest for a long time that can really boil down to what people then call a talent later, and then they sort of feel like they can't do it because, oh, you're so talented, I couldn't because I don't have the talent. Of course you could. If you practice and you have the time and opportunity to practice and do more of it because you have an interest, of course you could develop a skill in a thing that you call a talent. So I have a problem with how people use the word talent sometimes, because it can, be used as a dismissive way of like, I could never do that, but you totally could. One of my favorite illustrators has a print of everything as an experiment. Ooh, I love that. Something we all could stand to be reminded of more, to be honest. There's such an epidemic of perfectionism in today's society and like modern society. Like, everything needs to be picture perfect. You need to have started at the perfect school from the right age and done all the right extracurriculars and all the right things, and then gone to the right high school and gone to the right college, and then go straight into the right job, and then have in Norway we joke about, the 2.5 kids and the golden retriever and a station wagon and a house with a picket fence, and it's like, it's so rigid, all the things that are expected of people. Hello, madam. Can I help you? Hi. Do you want to join us? And I think that's sad. Like, there's so many other things that we could be doing that could be equally as rewarding and fun and giving and cool. And then if you don't get that perfect line, you're a failure. Like, no, you could still have gotten so many things right. Even so, we are about to have some ads. Maybe we can set up the cam while we are working on that. Oop. Hello, madam. The only problem being that I can't really see the screen of this one, so I'm not sure what it looks like. Tea first, anyway. Do you like some tea? Let's see, how does CatCam look at the moment? Boop. Well, that's not too bad. It's not the best, but it's not too bad. Hey, darling. Did you wake up when Spouse came home, huh? Beautiful girl. think maybe tilting it a little bit further down. Oh, come on. Come on, little tripod. No, that's too much. There, maybe? If you lie down, my sweet. I'll keep my 2 cats as my nuclear family. I agree. Cats are so lovely, and they're so loving, and sweet, and playful, and silly. And a little bit mischievous, but that's just because you want to reach all the tallest places, huh? All the good tall places that have all the good hiding spots. But I mean, if I just bring down the weaving materials from the top of my shelf, you can have that as a little cat tower to look down behind. Kitty cam, yes, Sud woke up when Spouse came home, so Kitty cam has been activated. Now not on top of me, which it was in the beginning. Hello. You are very sleepy-faced. Yes. Nest. This might not be the best. I'm thinking if I am knitting, you might not see the glorious baby. But anyway, I would like some tea first. This is just tea. It's not awfully warm, darling. That's what I thought. Move this one. And then we move this one a little bit. Why did Kitty Cam go away? What happened? Oh, I hit it because I am an experienced streamer. So I click things and I'm not supposed to. You should have enough battery to last at least for a little while. There we go, sweetie. Purrs are so quiet. I'm always amazed at the different volumes of different cats. Like Enya, our old lady who passed away last winter, she purred so loud. It was amazing. And then Soot is terribly, terribly quiet, but frequent. Like she purrs all the time. It's just very quiet. And then Embla is somewhere between. Like she's quite loud, not as loud as Enya was, but quite loud, and also she meows loud, so there's that. Go around screaming when she's looking for Spouse, which is usually hilarious but can be a little bit tiresome. You know, at 3 a.m. in the morning that she has woken up and has the zoomies and you're trying to sleep. But Spouse wanted a Velcro cat, and they did get a Velcro cat, absolutely. Sounds like Diwali celebrations have started here. Oh, that's so exciting! I have never been to a Diwali event. It looks so pretty. Isn't that the Festival of Lights, where they have the beautiful lamps and things like that? I've never been to one, but I've seen some, just shorts or videos online, and it looks beautiful. So many fun things. I remember when I was a student, we did a potluck where everyone brought a dish from their culture, and there were so many amazing flavors. It was so much fun. Absolutely recommend if you have something like that. Anywhere near you. It's a lot of fun to see and sort of eat and taste your way through other people's childhood. Though I will say, we were cooking for a wedding at one point, and One was, I think she was from Rwanda. I want to say one of the countries in Africa that has plantains as a staple dish, and they wanted us to make a combination because the gentleman was a Viking reenactor, so they wanted us to do a combination of like Viking food as best we can, which is why they hired us in, because we've done some events like that in the past, and some food from her culture. But what happened was that everyone wanted the Viking food because it was new and exciting, and all the kids were like, I don't want the fried plantains, like we have that all the time, I want the new food, the interesting food. So they almost didn't eat it because they had new stuff to eat instead, which was kind of funny. But I also get it, like if that is your everyday food, like why would you have it when there are other interesting things to enjoy? Oh, you're in Tooting? Or near Tooting? That's large South Indian community around there. We used to live, and that's, I don't believe that's like, we used to live in Balham, which is just next door to Tooting. So I used to walk down to Tooting if I wanted to, get some rice or international food because it's so affordable and so available. And yeah, it was an amazing area. Really fun, and I mean close to everything, as most things are in London, because you have the underground, and we also had a train line going nearby, so it was very easy to get around. But what an interesting coincidence. So when Spouse studied in London, we lived in Balham, and it was very nice. It's a very chill area. It was quiet. We were lucky in that respect. It was a quiet area. It was a very nice apartment. Couldn't afford anything very big, so it was a bit tweaked. I'm glad we didn't pandemic there. That would have been intense, because none of us had any places to study or work or anything. Like there was just room for the bed and a small kitchen and a small couch, and there wasn't really anything else. So it would have been very challenging to have a lockdown there, but it was a nice time. It was very good. It was hard to enjoy the good parts about London, to be honest, when we were there, because we didn't quite have the finances to enjoy London. It was more or less working and coming home exhausted, or studying in Spouse's sake, and I was working. And so I kind of wish that we'd had the finances to enjoy London more, but it was still a very interesting, very valuable experience, the 2 years we were there. Small world? Yeah, exactly. I'm surprised. Like, what are the odds of all the large areas of London? What are the odds? But yeah, I used to walk down there. It was a nice little walk. And then in Balham there would also be some farmers markets and stuff like that. And we had the lovely park. I can't remember what the park was called, but it was very nice. I do enjoy having a park. I felt very spoiled living in such a big city and then having a park just 5 minutes walk away. Like, that seemed very, very nice. Although I have to say, as someone who's used to Norway's tiny, tiny cities and then just forest everywhere else, it was very disorienting of a kind to walk around in like Richmond Park. That is, you're in the middle of London, which is one of the biggest cities in the world, and there is this enormous park area that is full of wild, was it elk or deer? I suppose elk is a more proper term maybe, but just in the middle of the city, which is not something you see in Norway because our cities are just so small, so the deer live in the forest. Not in a park that probably was wild at some point and then sort of London grew around it. But yeah, that was really interesting to me. And we did go to Kew. I love Kew. Kew was fairly hard to get to. It was one of the harder places to get to from where we live, but Kew is so gorgeous. I loved just walking around in Kew and just looking at the magnolias and... Oh, they're called deer? Alright, yeah. I'm never really quite sure if I should call something an elk or a deer, because it would be very different in Norwegian, but yeah, it was so disorientating to me that there's this park full of deer that are like semi-domesticated. I mean, they're very used to people because people go for walks there all the time, but they aren't, you know, what should I say? They aren't livestock or anything like that. It was very strange. Same when you live there and not having the money to enjoy it. Got pretty good at scouring time out for free events. Yeah, that's a good thing to do. I tried to go for walks, and I had, since London is fairly flat, I had a fairly safe bike route to work. I was working up in King's College, close to, what's it called now? Well, it was close to the river. I can't remember the name of the King's Cross. It might have been one of the really big stations. But it was fairly flat, and it took me the same amount of time to bike to work as it was to crowd on a train, and I was like, I'm 100% getting a second-hand bike for £50 and biking to and from and having a really good morning, some air, some not having to fight for space and the morning rush, and it was such a nice way to start the day. I really enjoyed it. Plus you get to see so much more of the city than when you are stuck in an underground train. Madam, are you sure you can fit all the way up there? I really need to take stuff off the shelves, don't I? Because you are using it as a jungle gym, which I kind of love. It used to be a royal hunting park back in, I want to say, Tudor times. Yeah, I believe that. I mean, I assume a lot of the parks are related to hunting, but London just kind of grows and grows and grows and grows. Hello, Elizad. Welcome. This time I have a bottle of tea and a project. Ooh, I love that. Doing needle lace with the thinnest silk I have. That is ambitious. It's slow but really satisfying when you get the lace. Oh, I believe that. Silk can be so... I mean, since it's so sturdy, it can spin so small. I don't know what the thinnest silk you have, but I have. I mean, the thinnest silk that I have in any colors is 60/2 nanometers, but I did buy a spool of, I think, 200/2, just because it was there and I wanted to see what it looked like, and it looks like spider silk. I still haven't done any tablet weaving with it because I'm like, I can't even see this thread. This is so tiny. But I kind of want to one day. I always think cyclists in London are very brave. Interesting story. So I kind of agree with that because we got second-hand bikes. We saved up for one bike for spouse and one bike for me. And on paper, in theory, we had the same distance to like either uni or work, whichever. But I had one of the cycling superhighways going from Balham to King's Cross. Wasn't King's Cross, was it? It was something. One of the stations where I worked. I had a cycling superhighways. I had a bike lane the entire way. So I felt fairly safe biking in London. Whereas spouse did not have any of that at all when they were biking, and they would get honked at, they would get, grazed, they felt really unsafe cycling in London, and they stopped cycling because it was scary, because the cars were very aggressive towards them. So it was two absolutely massively different experiences, just because I had a bike lane and had sort of an assigned spot where I was allowed to be a bike, and they didn't. So we were there at the same time, from the same house, and two very, very different things. Waterloo or Charing Cross? Yeah, Waterloo it would be, I think. Right next to one of the King's College campuses. Which I like. It feels weird to talk about that, but I no longer work there, so it should be fine to disclose such mad things on the interwebs. But yeah, I had biking way all the way, so I was safe, and spouse was not, and they quickly stopped and went back to, taking the train. It was wild how different you were treated from just one experience to the next. I'm not sure of the exact numbers. It's very old. It is for machine embroidery, but still natural silk. Oh, then it must be very thin, I think. Wow, that sounds very exciting. I've never done needle lace, but I've seen some gorgeous projects. Like, oh, I just love seeing people doing things they love. It's amazing. But yeah, that was a time. It was a special time. I wish I'd had the time and the funds to enjoy London more. We didn't really go out much or explore much. We found some really nice vegan spots though. Like, well, Tibbetts isn't vegan, it's vegetarian, but they have had the buffet. I wonder if they survived the pandemic. I mean, buffet style food wasn't really the easiest to survive on, but they had amazing dishes. It was so good. And there was manna up in Notting Hill, close to, oh, what's the name of the, I am not very good with names, but there are very many. We tried to find some places and we had some fun. We also took the train once out of London towards a park that has dinosaurs, which was pretty fun. I mean, the bath turned out that, you know, it was cheaper to have a monthly pass than to have a ride, that to pay every ride that you go on. And in those cases, when that worked out, we could go on train rides to things with free access, like museums and parks and things like that. So we would try to do things like that. And also I did splurge or save up for an annual pass to Kew, because it turned out that when you had an annual pass at Kew, you could also bring a friend, and you didn't have to register the friend, although I just brought spouse, but you would get to bring one friend for free. And it turned out that you could pay, at the time at least, it would cost you 2 trips to Kew as a couple would be more expensive than just getting an annual pass for one. So we did that, and then we got to go, you know, to see the different seasons, and just, you didn't have to rush and walk, you know, until your legs fell off, because you could come back later. That was really nice, the year we had that. I really enjoyed that. I love botanical gardens. Having worked in one, I really have a lot of appreciation for them. Got to vanish for a bit? Well, have a good one. We are probably not going to stay awake for that much longer, but... Uh-oh. I lost my cat companion and I didn't even really notice. I wonder if I can finish this one first. Ooh, making clothes emotionally durable. I like that phrase. It's a very good way of putting it, I think. But yeah, recreating clothes that you like that are falling apart, I absolutely stand this. The shirt pattern, one of the few patterns I actually have, is from an old fast fashion blouse that I have worn absolutely to bits. But I like the fit of it, and it's comfortable, and it's a nice, loose fit. So I can definitely understand trying to recreate something that, you know, you have it already and it fits. Making it work in a more durable fabric is super. It has its own kind of specialty. It's very cool. I love that you're doing that, and it's a very good phrase, saying, whatever you want to call it. In the US, often places have discounts for students. Is that a thing elsewhere to make things more affordable for younger folk? It is. Student discounts are definitely a thing, both in Norway and the UK, as far as I remember. Of course, I wasn't a student there at the time, but yeah. Honestly, a lot of the time I prefer if it's just a youth discount, like a young adult discount, which I've had on bus passes in some cities that I've lived in. And that is nice because a lot of the time young adults don't have that much money, so having just an all-around discount can be useful. But yeah, student discounts are also a thing. would make use of that quite a bit as a student. Generally something like 10, maybe 15%, depending on the place you're in, or, you know, special coupons or things like that can be useful. And generally, like, transportation is significantly discounted, like bus passes and things, train fares are a lot cheaper than if you're not a student, and that makes things a lot easier. Like monthly bus passes was something I would generally be able to afford as a student, which made everything so much easier than, you know, having to pinch pennies or walk back and from the uni or the city to get to where you needed to be. Although I did do that sometimes too, because I like to walk. It's nice to be able to give your brain a breather, it feels like, when I go for walks. And sometimes it's like to process, you know, getting from your place of work or study to home, getting to go out of work mode and into being home mode. That transition time I find very valuable. Same when you're going to school or work. I took advantage of that a lot back in the day, and sometimes places have discounts or sliding scale for disabled or low-income folks, which I greatly appreciate now. Oh, interesting. Norway do not have that so much yet. I wish they did. I hope it's coming more and more. That is honestly one of the reasons why, on the rare occasion that I try to make a pattern, one, I'm not very experienced in writing patterns, so I don't think they are, you know, I don't want to charge for them, but I also don't want to exclude people from accessing the patterns because they don't have the funds. I mean, life is hard enough as it is. Like, if I want to do sliding scale things if I'm able to, but it can be difficult to set up. I've tried to set up pay what you want 2 times now, and it's a lot of work. So I'm always very impressed by the people who have that kind of thing in place. But yeah, I wish there were more. We don't have, like, in Norway there is not a disability discount unless you are actually on disability, if that makes sense. Like, if you don't get a discount for having a chronic illness, or if you're working, you get it if you have, like, if you are all the way 100% disabled and you're on social security, I guess you could call it in English. Like, you get a stipend because you're so disabled that you cannot work, so you get a small amount of money to subside on. And those people get a discount generally on, especially, again, public transportation and that kind of thing. And I also at the dentist, I'm pretty sure, and in some cases at the doctors, but the doctor is already heavily subsidized, so I'm not sure of all the details, but there are discounts there, especially on public transit, and I think also maybe on theater and stuff. I'm not sure about that, I would have to check, but I'm glad those things exist to make things a little bit easier for people who have very little money. So it's one of the reasons I want the content to be that I make to be available, even if YouTube plays ads. I know ads are annoying, but at least when there are ads, we still put it out for free. Like, we still put it out publicly available. Like, the stuff that I put on, for instance, Patreon is the smaller personal stuff. It's never like a whole project or a research video with information that could be valuable to other people. Like, I don't want to gatekeep, especially the research videos. It's important to me that they are free, because it is such a big problem that research articles and journals are so expensive, so that they, you know, you have to have money to access knowledge, which I think is bad. You're heading out, Catherine? Well, nice to see you. I hope you have a good one. Always lovely to have company while I am rambling on about all sorts of random nonsense, but hope you have a good Halloween and regular Thursday evening. Access to knowledge is important to me. I think it's... things are so gatekept. Like, in Norway, of course, it's easier to get education than, for instance, in the US, where it's frightfully expensive. But when you're done with your education, unless you work for an institution that pays for those journals for you to read them, then it's very hard to get access to a lot of journals. I know there are some grassroots initiatives that kind of sneak into them, and then they get shut down and they pop up elsewhere, that students use a lot, because I mean, you have to, if your institution, especially in Africa and Asia, if the institution doesn't have the funding to buy all the articles that you need to read for your education and your schooling, what are you gonna do? You need to figure something out. People get generally so flabbergasted when you tell them that as a researcher, if you want to publish a journal or an article in a journal, you are the one to pay, unlike publishing any other kind of written media like books, where you, at least in theory, from a good publisher, are supposed to get paid by the publisher for the sales of the book. And university sector being the only one where you pay for the privilege of publishing in their journal and also being ripped apart by reviewers. You're a special kind of breed. Review comments are interesting. Long time no see, Kristine. Well, hello, Nelly. Welcome. Last time I saw you visiting Shannon and teaching her knoll binding. How exciting, sitting here in North Karelia, knitting wrist arm warmers with traditional Kalevala inspired wires. Ooh, that sounds cool. Welcome. We are just hanging out. This is a very chill, no low action stream. I didn't even dress up for this auspicious night of Halloween, but you are welcome. It's a very nice little hangout. I enjoy this. I look forward to this, like, during the week. I need to sit down and chill. Like, it takes a little bit of time to set up, but once I'm sat, you know, I have to sit and chill out. And of course I am chatting with you and trying to engage and hoping that you have a good time, but I also have to sit and rest and take a moment, which I'm not that good at doing outside of this moment, to be honest. So I do enjoy it. Thinking of using Oslo stitch instead of Dalby stitch just to make things easier and quicker? Oslo stitch is a very safe choice. I mean, let's be real. It's a fairly simple stitch, and it's very versatile and very warm. All the stitches are nice and warm. The people who made the research and worked hard do deserve to be paid? They do, but there is a discrepancy because they aren't paid, they pay to publish. And there is an incentive in Norway now because most researchers are governmentally funded, and the government believes that if the government is funding it, it should be publicly available. So they've started an incentive where you have to pay the extra premium fee to have an article that you publish be open access, which is costing universities quite a bit, but it's an interesting thing, and we are about to have ads. But it is quite interesting that the government has been like, you need to make the extra money for open access so that the public can read your research. Finish stitch all the way. We like the different stitches, don't we? I mean, you look at it's the unusual thing about scientific papers is that you pay for the privilege of publishing to be public, but then you also pay to read the articles, the journals, which I think is unusual that you pay to both publish and to read the service that is there. But yeah, what I was saying before the ads was that the Norwegian government has allocated money to different universities that it gets used up before the end of the year. Like the first year it was implemented, I was still working as a PhD student, and we had used up the money that was allocated for open access publishing within, I think, the first 3 months. And then it's like up to the individual research group whether or not they are willing to or have the budget to fork over the money for making more of their research open access, which in theory they wanted kind of all governmentally paid institutions to do, because they are paid by the government, so they should be available for the common good of the public. Which, yeah, it is its own whole thing, the whole politics of publishing, and the ethics around paying to have your work published, and all of the things. But hello, sweetie. Some company again. But we do see that this has impacts on researchers in especially like African and Asian, South American countries where their universities cannot afford to pay for the licenses to all the different journals, so they cannot give them access to the same amount of research and knowledge that other researchers have. So it creates or it doesn't just create one, it widens a gap between researchers that is already there. I mean, we know that North American and European research is biased and favored, like that a lot of European and North American researchers don't really want to cite African research and things like that, and that gets worse because they often don't have access to the same level of sources that we do, which then just makes the problem bigger, which is also challenging. And then you're not just talking about the public having access to the research, but other researchers too, because this is something that your university library has a budget for or not, and these are no small sums. I think the university library publishes where I work, like, talks about how much money they spend on just these licenses, on having them every year, and it's an enormous amount of money. Like, it's insane to me when the librarians talk about just how much money they spend on it. It's mind-boggling, and I can totally understand that not all universities would be able to provide that for their researcher, because it's a lot of money. It could be spent on, other things like research and facilities and student accommodations and all sorts of different things. So it's a difficult thing. And that is part of why the government in Norway made the incentive about allocating some of the budget, of the national budget, to open access, so that the public would have access to research that they then, in many ways funded, because a lot of research is funded by the government. And other fun things. Sweetie, I thought we were going to wrap up and then you're going to let down? Come be the cutest little snuggle bug. Yeah, I like pay what you can afford models in theory and other like social models. I know there's a lot of work to implementing them sometimes, but I really like them in theory. because we know that societies where trust is high are generally, easier to live in than societies where trust is low. But building that trust can be challenging. Am I going to disturb you if I try to knit another round? I am, aren't I? This is quite a big project, and it's hard for me to keep it out of your fur. Very lovely. But yeah, in theory, we should now, though I'm not sure, be able to live stream as long as we want. The camera should not, knock on wood, run out of battery, which I am not quite sure how to test. It seems so risky to just be like, let's run for as long as we can. Not that I have the brain to do that today, but that could be fun as a project one day to try to do a longer stream. Our poor Australian and, Pacific friends who are, a lot of whom are in bed at this hour. Which is why I tried for a little while to do both morning and evening streams for me, so that, everyone could join, but that was challenging in its own way, because my brain likes routine. But it could be fun to do a longer stream at some point, just to see how that feels, if we survive it, so that more people hopefully have it at a time zone that works for them, but I had to admit, after trying that for a while, that at the end of the day, I do have to do it at the time that works for me, because otherwise it will not be a very engaging stream. We will just sit there and I will just doze off and be sleepy. Not that that does not happen at this hour as well. I believe in my country there is also government-funded research. However, I have heard that the amount of money is almost laughable, and to rely on private funding is. I assume best is. Yeah. I totally believe that. I don't think Norway is a common example in that a lot of the research is government-funded. I don't think that is the norm in any way, shape, or form. I think there was a stated goal that they wanted. I can't remember quite, but I think at the meeting I attended, they talked about they wanted something like 50-50 industry and government. So like you collaborate with industry and you help develop the things that they need, and you also do research for research's sake, which is often what the government-funded research is meant for, exploratory things. And a lot of environmental research would fall under government-funded research, because it isn't in the industry's best interest to figure out better ways to, see how the industry is polluting our environment. But I think I remember that they want something like 50-50, depending on institute and field, and some fields are a lot more interesting to the industry than other things. But I remember, in Norway we have both governmental and industrial funded PhDs, and I had a governmental funded one, or funded by the university, which in turn is funded by the government. And when you get those, you have biased like that. Yeah, I understand, of course. Yeah, that makes sense. Sorry. The company that funds sometimes requires results in their interest. Yeah, that is the problem with industrially funded research, is that they're often targeted and that they want to look at something specific, which is why, you have to disclose your affiliation with private, and a lot of researchers find industrially funded research inherently less reliable, because there's usually a reason why they're looking for something specific. And that can be a challenge. But yeah, when I was doing my PhD, I had a 4-year PhD, and when you're governmentally funded, one of those 4 years, one of those 4 years is to pay back by teaching. So you're doing 1 full year in total of teaching, though it's spread out over those 4 years. helping with courses and doing, TA, lab leading things, correcting journals and what have you, to sort of pay back for the government funding it to help the university teach. And the industrially funded ones would only have a 3-year PhD because they didn't have any teaching, because they were just funded by the industry, so they didn't have to do that sort of payback thing. And what I found when I was talking to them was that a lot of the time, because research, sort of grows on you, you think about things in the back of your head as you're doing other things, you get to realizations, you have epiphanies, you think about things. They were very stressed because they only had 3 years and they didn't have that time for the research to sort of, perlocate or whatever I should call it, like for things to stew and come to conclusions and things like that in the same way that we had when we had that additional year. Like, it's still a lot of work, but they were stressed on a different level because 3 years is so short. But yeah, it's no worry. No need to apologize. It was a very good guess, I think, for biased. But it's alright. English being the default international language is not something that, like, there are so many people who. I mean, you tried, which is, I think, very brave, actually. I know we have multiple people in the stream who just say hello and then are quiet for the rest of the stream because maybe they're not confident in their English skills or maybe they don't want to talk, but the fact that you tried is really, really good. I think there's no need to apologize for trying a thing and learning a new thing. Like, well done. How did I forget the 8 Ys? I don't know, it's getting late, at least in my parts of the world. I'm getting sleepy and you can tell from the way that I'm getting slow-brained. So don't worry, we encourage people to try things in this place, and that means that we also encourage. Like, I think mistakes should be celebrated in a very real way. Like, that is not meant in a joking manner or anything like that, but like, because if you're making mistakes, it means you're trying to figure something out, you're moving forward, you're figuring out ways that don't work. My supervisor used to bring forward the saying of, fail forward and fail fast, and by that they mean, keep trying, keep pushing. It's they had a lot of their experience in the US, so they had some unhealthy, like, I used to say that they only had a racing gear because they were always moving very fast. They felt they had slowed down, but I thought they were always doing a lot of things and doing 10 different things at once, and I could never, admirable, but I could never sustain that kind of pace, not in a million years. I am not capable of that. But yeah, their favorite motto was like fail forward and fail fast, figure out, just jump straight in, try to figure out, oh, that didn't work, at least we didn't waste, 2 years thinking about whether or not it would work, we just tried it, and now we're going to try something else, or we're going to fine-tune the settings or whatever, and figure out that this is actually the thing that works. On the 5th try, we figured out that, oh, this is the thing that works. So they really embodied and encouraged their students to just get in the lab and try to do stuff. And I think it's the same. So I genuinely think that mistakes should be celebrated because you're trying, you're in the field, you're doing the thing. Yes. I also really like, this is kind of tangentially related, but I had a teacher in high school, a maths teacher, who was a father of 2 children who were very good at sports. And they saw the discrepancy between people who are good at school and people who are good at sports. Because if you're good at sports, you get celebrated, you get applauded, you get prizes. But if you're good at school, you just get, good grades, and that's that. So they had, on principle, whenever we had a test, you got the tests back, and if you wanted to, you could identify yourself if you got an A, but you didn't have to. But on principle, whenever we got our tests back, the class had to applaud the people who got the best grade, the people who got A's. Whether they identified themselves or not, the class just on principle would applaud when you got tests back to celebrate the best performers. And I thought that was a really good attitude to that, trying to celebrate other things, not just sports. I thought that was a really good attitude. I'm quiet most of the time in the stream because I'm busy and typing something is interrupting my workflow. Yeah, exactly. So there's many different reasons why people aren't chatting and engaging. And lurking is completely like, don't like work and enjoy yourself. There is no demand for participation here. We are just whoever wants to chat, please do, but if not, there's no rush either way. I am very sleepy as well, but this is my time for craft. I can understand that. Like, I am supposed to finish the stream now, and yet I have started the 4th row, and I'm not supposed to do that, but it's nice though. It's nice to be able to sit down, and my void returned, and I don't want to chase her away, even if, I mean, when I get the snack out, she's very willing, but I just feel so bad when she just arrived. English is such a difficult language to learn. I don't know how language is for other people, but in primary school, I was not a fan of English at all. I didn't get good grades. Well, we weren't graded in primary school, but I didn't do well. I didn't understand it. I didn't see the point. I was just like, oh, but I'm just going to live in Norway. Like, who cares if I know English or not? And then in 9th grade was the time when I started using the internet, when we got a computer that we shared at home, and I had 1 hour in the evening that was mine, where I was allowed to sit at the computer and look at things on the internet. And I also got an MP3 player, and I love to sing, so I sang a lot of English songs. And all of a sudden, because I was using English outside of the classroom, something just clicked. There was just a switch that was flipped in my head, and suddenly I managed English. Like, I still wasn't perfect. I still had comments from the teachers on things to improve, but I went from struggling and having a hard time and not getting it at all to at a point I had enough proficiency where sort of it went the other way around, and now I was like, okay, but now I can think in English, now I can work in English, now I am, I can make myself understood in English, even if I don't have, all the technical words or whatever. So to me, it was very much a on-off button, which I don't know what kind of experiences other multilingual people have. I don't know if that is common. I don't know if that is how it usually goes, but that was how it was for me, and people always think it was really strange. They always attribute my English skills to my 2 years in London, but I was already using English as my working language before that, because in STEM in universities, like, we had the very first semester we had Norwegian textbooks, but since then we had English professors and English textbooks, and all our coursework was done in English. English was just the working language. It was just how it was. It's not that case for teaching students and nursing students and, vocational studies, but if you're into STEM and you're going to do research, you're going to need to learn to read research articles in English, so your working language is going to be English. So glad I managed to catch the stream today. It reminds me that I have to keep trying even as I get older. Yes. I am glad that you feel that way, because that is so important to me, that people don't feel shame around trying to do a thing, because there is no shame in trying. Trying should be celebrated. I think that is like, please celebrate trying. It's so undervalued in our society, again with the perfectionism. People want to get it on the first try, but how are you supposed to get to the proficiency without all the failing in between? Like, I never would have gotten better at English if I didn't have those years where I just didn't like English and struggled, but I still had it in school. I still had to try, I still had to practice. I never would have gotten proficient if I didn't have that first. Being able to communicate in multiple languages is a superpower? It is. I really wish that I was able to learn more more languages than English. I'm just struggling again to feel that proficiency that, and English is so, it's everywhere, isn't it? So it's like, having enough use of another language to learn one would be difficult. So I just have a smattering of phrases in different languages and no real use or understanding of any one of them. I was useless at sports. My brother excelled at it. I did well academically and got bullied. We got our academic results whispered quietly to not shame those who did less well. Oh, that's sad. The sports prowess was trumpeted for weeks on notice boards. Same 3 people usually at the bottom. Yeah, I know. So, I mean, it was just one teacher, but it's still one teacher trying to show you that a different way is possible. And I especially like that, I mean, if you got an A and you wanted to be identified, you could raise your hand. But if you didn't want to be identified because, like, maybe you felt shame for, I don't know, doing, sticking your head out, you still got applauded. Like, that was still a thing, and I thought that was really nice. I found English to be the easiest of the foreign languages I've studied speak. I don't know if it's easier, I just know that there is so much of it everywhere that it's easy to be exposed to it. And that's the thing. I once worked with an amazing polyglot who spoke so many languages. I could never understand how she could speak so many languages. So she spoke, I think, Tamil, and of course Norwegian and English, and she spoke French, and she did exchange studies in China, so she spoke Chinese, and I was just flabbergasted. Like, that woman spoke so many languages, and she just picked them up like it was nothing, and I was just amazed at her ability to just pick up languages, and she could use them too. We had other gardeners who spoke only Polish and French because she had been a French teacher, and she was from Poland. And they would communicate in French, and then she would translate back to us because she could be that bridge in between, whereas I could only say, hello, how are you in French, and that's about that, and small words here and there. But she could properly communicate with her and use all the languages she knew, and I was just on a different level. Amazing. I later discovered I was good at cycling, especially road racing. That is fun, though. Cycling is fun. Yeah, I've never had any prowess at sports. Never been good at sports. I enjoy some sports. Like, I enjoy yoga, especially like it's stretches and things like that, because it makes my body less tense. I know that my tension headaches and stuff get worse when I don't have time to do my stretches, and they really help. So they really help me feel better in my body. But speed, I have never been fast at anything. Not even, like, I am just not a fast person. Spouse wanted us to try to do dancing at one point, and I love to dance. Like, I danced sometimes as a child, and we would dance swing, like we call it barn swing, like very basic, quite easy, not so fast. And that was a lot of fun, the very few times that I did that with family. But spouse wanted to do, because they love fast things, and what was the name of it again? They wanted to do one of the really fast ones. Was it Lindy Hop? One of the really fast swing styles. And I just couldn't. My body just can't move that fast. I love to dance, but I can't move fast. So it has to be something a little bit slower than just super, super fast. Hello, this is Linda from Hickory, North Carolina. Hello, Linda. Welcome. Our German exchange student described exactly the same process. A switch just flipped. Oh, interesting. So clearly some people do learn language like that then. That is not... I've never heard of other people having the same experience, but that is really encouraging. Like, thank you for sharing that. That is actually really fun to me because I have not talked to other people who have described it in the same way, but that is exactly how it felt. Like it felt like from one moment to the next, like you didn't understand English, and the next moment you did. It was super super strange, but very helpful once the switch had flipped. Like it was so much easier to attend the English classes because I could be given feedback in a very different way. After having to learn Finnish grammar, most other languages seem really easy. Well, I mean, Finnish is lauded for being one of the hardest languages to learn. Like, my commiserations, that is a challenging language, a beautiful language, but my goodness, a challenging language. As well, Finns need to learn other languages because we can't expect others to learn ours. That's generally the attitude in most small countries, I find, like, Norway and Sweden and Iceland as well. Is like, why would you want to learn our language unless you live here? Because no one is going to use it outside of Norway. Although I have heard of, especially literature enthusiasts, especially if they're into Ibsen, they want to learn Norwegian even if they don't live in Norway so that they can read Ibsen in the native language that Ibsen was written. I don't know if that goes for other authors too, but I've heard it very specifically for Ibsen. And that is like the one example I could think of. After 17 years in Mexico and countless hours studying, I've given up. No switch ever flipped here. Oh, that's sad. Don't beat yourself up over that, though. Languages are hard to learn. And I've never, I don't know if I've passed the window of opportunity where you acquire languages, because, we were exposed to languages as children, like you're exposed to English from the beginning, so I don't know if that really helped, but I've not been able to acquire another language. It's just Norwegian and English, although that does allow me to understand, Swedish and Danish as well, but that's just because the languages are so similar. But yeah. I have not been able to do anything like that with any other language, not even close. So don't beat yourself up over that. I could hear from her use of words that she was thinking in English. We had a great celebration. That is really cool. Yeah, that's the thing for me too. That when I think in English, it's easier. And you're completely right. Especially when there are different sentence structures to languages, you can really hear whether there's thinking in English or thinking in their native language, because if the sentence structure is different, that will come out at the other end, absolutely. Same in Estonia, we have 2 mandatory foreign languages in school. Oh wow, that is... Well, I suppose we do the same in Norwegian, yeah. I don't think about English, it's just English, it's just there. But yeah, I think technically we did. I had... you could choose either French or German in secondary school, and then the same, but also Spanish in high school. In my high school specifically, some high schools will have other languages, like in the north it's more common to have Sami and Russian, for instance. So it depends on what kind of teachers your school has access to. But yeah, so I had French in secondary school. Still can't make myself understood in French. No, smattering of words. And then, because I was never very good at languages, I specifically chose German in high school, because if I did that, I only had to have German for 2 out of the 3 years in high school, whereas if I did French, I would have to do advanced French, because I'd had French in junior high, and then I would have to do 3 years of French. And I was not up for that, so I chose German instead. And I'm not proficient in either of those. And we are about to have some ads. Much as this conversation is, I love languages, they're so fascinating. Sadly, all the Latin that I learned before I started learning Spanish totally blotted out all the Spanish. I had to quit. Oh no. Yeah, it can be difficult when they all mix up. I did 3 years of German, 1 year of French and Spanish. Yeah, but it's not enough when you are not, immersed in the language. That was what my friend who was a polyglot would say as well. Like, she learned Chinese because she went to China as an exchange student and studied there and worked there. She understood French because she lived in France as an exchange student and was immersed in the language. If you're not immersed in the language, it's super, super hard to actually learn the language at all. In commerce, you can buy in your own language, but you must sell in the customer's language. Oh, interesting. That is huh. You started to learn Japanese when you were 8 or 9 years old? Yeah, it's easier when you're younger. I mean, you're generally more open to learning new things. You can still do it when you're older, but when you're younger, it is somewhat easier. I did 1 year of Japanese in my 20s, but these days I can barely remember a single word I learned, but I can speak some French and Spanish from what I was taught when I was in secondary school 20 years ago. Yeah, something sticks better. Like, I keep trying to pick up hiragana and katakana to read them, and I will be able to read them for a while, and I remember some of them, some of the symbols, but again, when you're not using it all the time, it's just really hard to stay proficient. There's so much other stuff the brain is trying to learn that it just keeps dropping the things you're not using, which can be frustrating, but you also understand why the brain is doing that, like it wants to keep whatever is the most current, but I remember there was this app, it probably still exists, where you had the flashcards where you would study and you would like get a kanji or a meaning, and then you would have to guess the right one or write the right one. The writing was always the hardest. One thing is recognizing the symbols, another thing is you actually have to write it from scratch without any prompts as to what they look like. Like, the guessing and the reading is one thing, but actually having to write it. And that was always the case with language as well. Like, reading is one thing and interpreting is one thing, but then having to produce and come up with sentences is a very different skill set and can be very hard, because then you have to find the word, not just understand the word. But yeah, languages are hard, not to be underestimated. Your personality changes a bit in the other language. I'm much more forward in English. Yes, it does. This is something that people who don't have multiple languages can have troubles understanding, but yeah, it absolutely does. It absolutely affects how you speak and who you are. And I've also heard people talk about how if they have English in their country, because they have so many countries, like especially in African countries, if they have a lot of different tribes with different languages, they may have English or French or Spanish as sort of the governmental big communication language, because otherwise no one will be able to understand one another, because the different languages are so different that they can't understand each other without some sort of common ground, and they use English, for instance. And they talk about how, Ethiopian English, they have a very different personality than when they are in the US or they are in the UK and they speak with, other people, other users of English. And I find that fascinating, but also really understandable. Like, it makes sense. Like, your culture so impacts how you communicate and the word you choose and how you... It's the whole code switching thing all over again. Like, how you speak, what words you choose, whether you are at work or with your friends or with your family, so impacts what you're actually doing. It's super interesting. I did tennis as an elective in university and learned that my brain and body does not move together. Oh no. I loved playing in primary school and loved netball in high school, but tennis was so hard for me. Oh, that must be frustrating. I finally started learning Icelandic. I have been listening to Icelandic music for quite some time, and now I looked up lyrics and English or German translations. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that is one of the ways that I learn pronunciation, is just to sing songs in other languages. It can be so helpful. And then if you read the translations, so you learn the words, they start to seep in because you are actually using the language and reproducing the language, which I think is very, very cool. But we have been going for quite some time, so I think we shall call it here, much as my snoozy baby is very, very cute, very much giving peak void vibes. I am needing to head off to bed and brush my teeth and do all of those things that happen when it's evening. So for those of you in the US for whom the day has just started, I hope you have a lovely day. And all my European friends and everyone else, I hope you have a lovely rest of your evening, rest of your week, rest of, well, I mean, today is the last day of October, so I guess almost happy November. We are very, very close, and I shall see you again soon. Again, if you're new here, I try to stream around this time when daylight savings times aren't messing up for us, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. roughly, Norwegian time, whatever time that is for you. But I do have chronic illness, sometimes I have migraines and I can't stream, so I try to share that in Discord when I am sick, when I'm not able to make it, and you can find that in the pinned comments if you want to check in, if you want to check in more times. But generally this is the time of the week and the day that I try to stream when I am well. But if I'm not streaming, it is generally because I am sick. So that is how you find out whether there is a stream or not. But yeah, I really enjoy these streams. I have a lot of fun engaging with the community and chatting about all sorts of things. So I hope you have a very good rest of your day, and I shall see you soon. Bye. Say bye to the people. Okay. Oh.